We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for the Quantum Thinking Sales Bootcamp training, and we're just going to dive right in. And so we've gone over in the past the 530 grid, and so when we look at the 530 grid, it's like the more you know about the 530 grid, the more you don't know about it, and so that's a good thing. So I've been working with it for over, 20 years, and I learn something new, every day. So let's do a quick review. So you identify targets in marketing, you develop and deliver a message, and that generates a lead. And then you go to box 3, which is track 100% of the leads, not 99%, 100%. It's the only box of the 30 boxes that it's 100%. Like it's flawless. Like you always track every single lead. So you have a system for doing that. Then you ask key questions, and then you present solutions. Most people think that the sale is made in the presentation of solutions, but the sale is actually made in asking the questions. So again, does anybody remember the last 2 questions you always ask?
Is there any other question we should have asked that we didn't ask, or any additional information we should know that we don't?
See, she's a great student. Like that's just flawless right there. That's exactly what you do. So you do that. That's the second to the last question. So why do you do that? Why is that so important?
Because it opens up, like, if you miss something that they were thinking that that was important to them that you didn't ask, then you get to cover that before you close the conversation.
Yeah. You always want, because if they're thinking, why didn't Mark ask this question? Like they can't go on to the next step. They're stuck. And so you always want to do that. You listen intently. They'll say, well, yeah, you didn't ask me my vision. I'm like, oh, that's yeah. What's your vision? And then they'll tell you and say, okay, that's interesting. Then you go back and say, so is there any other questions we should have asked that we didn't ask, or any additional information we should know that we don't know? And they might say, well, yeah, you didn't ask, what my vision was for my kids. Okay. So you ask that, and then you go back and ask the same question. So you keep going back to the same question until they're like, nope, you got everything. You never ask for the sale. You don't even ask for the last question until they're totally empty. Like they're totally like you've covered everything, and it's like you've done a thorough job. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. And then the last question is, anybody remember that?
Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, it's that simple. And I'm telling you, when it works, and it doesn't work every time, when it works, somebody will say, yeah, like, what's my next step? Like, how do I get signed up? How do I get going? You're just like, no way. Mark actually knows what he's talking about. This actually works. And so when you go through and you ask the right questions in the right way, in the right order, you listen really good, you present a solution. Hopefully, what happens then is then they go down to servicing. If they don't go down to servicing, if they wait, then we need to go to. So one of 2 things is going to happen. They're going to say no, which is often better than them saying maybe in the future I'm interested, but not now. If they say something about the future, then you actually move them back up to box 5, which is implement 10 plus strategic strikes. So they're back in pre-sales again. Now, to accelerate in Amy's Action Vision coaching session today, we talked about your sales closing ratio. So there's 2 key things in sales. One is your sales closing ratio, and that's what percentage of your leads will convert. The average in most industries is 1 out of 10. If you're getting referrals from strong referrals, it can be 7 or 8 out of 10. If it's more than 8 out of 10, you probably have a lead generation issue. So you might close 100% leads, but only get one lead a month. And so it's quantity and quality of leads. Um, and so, so that one is your sales closing ratio. And then the second is your sales cycle. How long from the lead? How many days from the lead to the ability to close it? So Katrina, she's brand new. She's doing great. It's her third day. And her third day as an EVA and LP, she's going through the same type of thing that you all are learning how to sell. And she got her first x-ray sale today. And she's so good, she wasn't even present when she closed the sale. It was just amazing. And it's a cold call. Just picked up the phone, just took a magazine for business owners, just picked up the phone and just cold called the person. I mean, straight up, just like that. And boom, it just went right like that in 27 minutes. And so then what we do is this is the golden triangle. And so box 6 is group people and messages. So this is the golden triangle. This is the foundation. You get these systems, these 6 boxes working. It's absolutely magical. How you increase your sales closing ratio and you reduce your sales cycle is box 12. So box 12 is you feed your successes from your marketing back into your or from your servicing. You feed your successes from your servicing back into your marketing, back into your pre-sales, back into your sales. It's like miracle grow in your business. And so you stories sell. So you want to come up with stories. So when you're listening to Amy sell, her stories are the things that make it work. So the business x-ray, I have a killer story from a number of years ago, and I share that story, and that story is absolutely magical on what it's able to do. So let's go back. So that kind of gives context and everything. And so the 30-minute strategy session starts off with a 17-second personality assessment, 3 minutes when you get into the biggest challenge and stuff. And then it's 11 minutes, and then it's 16 minutes. So 3 plus 11 is 14, and then you have 16 minutes to close, and it'll sell anything. And so if we go ahead and Amy, like, what would you like us to do on the 3 minute or any of that?
Well, that's where I'm confused. Like, so typically, like your all 30-minute consultation is like our 45-minute discovery meeting. It's with someone that is interested in mo learning more, right?
With ours, not really. Ours,
Okay.
they're having a biggest challenge, and we're giving them a conversation about that biggest challenge.
Yeah. So if they're talking to us, like they're having a marketing conversation. That's why, we can't figure out how to use that 3-minute survey in our discovery process because it also doesn't make sense for our BNI one-to-ones. Like our BNI one-to-ones is supposed to be both parties sharing like who our ideal referrals and stuff are and what kind of clients we're trying to attract. We're trying to figure out how to utilize this tool in a way that makes sense for Uplift from a membership perspective. It could help, but we just cannot wrap our heads around how to use this because obviously we want their biggest need to be marketing. That's why we're having the discovery meeting with them.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with you, but that doesn't mean I'm agreeing with you either. It
Sure.
just
And
means
that's why we're having this conversation.
right. So often if we want it to be something, like if all we have is a hammer, everything's a nail.
Mhm.
And so what you really want it to be is you really want it to be whatever it is. What's the biggest challenge that they're facing? And most of the time, it's not going to be marketing, at least not the people we talk to. Now, that doesn't mean that's not their biggest problem. It's just not on their top of their mind. 33% of business owners will say that their biggest issue is going to be time. They don't have time.
And that is a problem we solved because they don't have time to do their marketing either. That's why they lay dormant.
Exactly right. That's
Okay.
exactly right. So you don't care what you're really sincere. You want to know what their biggest challenge is. So what you're going to do is take whatever their biggest challenge is and build a bridge between their biggest challenge and what you do. And you say, what we do, what an interesting coincidence. What we do is we'll actually solve your biggest challenge by doing this.
Okay. And so when we're talking with someone, do we just have this screen up and are we entering the data here on their behalf?
So what we do is we go ahead and use MCAT, which is a CRM system through Life Masteries Institute. And so what that does is they go ahead, there's a tab here. And in this tab, it has what their biggest challenge is, 1 and 2, what they'd love help with, and then number of hours they're working, they'd like to work. And then it goes into the 4 personalities here, their geo test, pain quadrant test. Then we go ahead and find their minimum income goal or their WOW income goal, their minimum income goal. And then we go ahead and find out if there was one thing they'd like to change about themselves, what would it be?
Okay.
And then we ask them 1 to 10 coachability, listening skills, sales skills, sense of urgency, what causes them to have a high sense of urgency. 1 to 10, how much of a procrastinator are they? And when they do procrastinate, why do they procrastinate? And if they did when they do procrastinate, if they had a coach, a mentor, somebody they were partnering with, how would they like them to respond? Because what's one of the biggest enemies to sales? Procrastination. So if you find out what they think they're a procrastinator on, and you find out why they procrastinate, and you find out they're telling you, they're giving you a roadmap on how to sell them. And then you go ahead and say, if your coach or mentor or somebody you're working with, if they did your strategy, would it work? And then you ask them, the final piece is going to be, like if somebody said the following to you, how would you respond? What this is doing is this is testing coachability, which does apply to all of you. What you're doing, it applies to any industry, really. I mean, obviously to coaching it does. Took me 19 and a half years to figure out that question. But are they open to thinking differently? Are they open? Because you don't want a client that's locked. So I think all of this takes 14 minutes to do. So this right here would take 14 minutes to go through and do all of this. And then the last 16 minutes is then asking questions that they're going to be interested in us just based on these 14 minutes of questions. So they just will, because nobody's ever asked them these questions. They're really sincerely interested in me. They're not trying to sell anything, and we're not. We're trying to find out what their problems are and then say, will our solution help them to solve their biggest challenge? Then we have 16 minutes to build the bridge between what we have and what they have. Now, our sales cycle for the Action Vision used to be about 6 to 9 months. And so what we did is we built the Business X-ray. And the Business X-ray shrunk that thing down to where it's less than a week, typically. I mean, it shrunk it down. Now, that Business X-ray is not to sell. It's not to sell Action Vision, the coaching. It's designed to go in deeper and have its $285. So it's an easy sale. So what you're doing is getting them to say yes to the Business X-ray, and then the X-ray goes far deeper into it, and it reveals all kinds of information about everything. So probably you could go ahead, and if you did this, you could do a 30-minute. You could try it out, and you could do a 30-minute, sell them on the Business X-ray, and then in the Business X-ray, you could use the Business X-ray takes roughly, depending about 30 minutes to an hour to ask questions. So you could use that. And if you can get them to pay for the 40 minutes, that strategy session, if you can get them to pay for that, My friend from Australia, Ralph, he said when people pay, they pay attention. And when they pay a lot, they pay a lot of attention. So what we did is we incorporated something, a very small amount, something that doesn't cost much, got them to pay. You might be able to use the exact same thing, the business x-ray, or you might come up with something on your own. But if you can get them to pay something, they're going to take that something and they're going to treat it more seriously. You're going to shorten your sales cycle, increase your sales closing ratio.
So essentially, we could actually, Aaron and I just talked in our meeting earlier about offering snapshot reports for free for our BNI partners and their referrals. We could actually team this with that because we could send the report, we could run the report and then meet with them, go over that report, which is a free service, and this, and find out what their biggest challenge is, because that would tie into that. Then that could lead into our next step of doing a discovery meeting specific to marketing.
Right. Right.
And so,
You want to go ahead and significantly shrink the time you're giving them for free for a number of reasons. One, it's free, it's costing you money.
yeah.
Two is the more they get for free, the more they think about it, they analyze it, they think about it, they're not sure about it. So if you can shrink that down, get them to pay something, it's not a lot, get them to pay something. Now they're bought in. So in Proverbs, it talks about how a buyer says, I don't want to buy, I don't want to buy, I don't want to buy. I think it's Proverbs. And then when they buy, then they find all the reasons why they should buy. So you flip the mental from resisting to supporting and moving forward, if that makes sense.
Sure. The one thing that's a hassle, we don't want to set up a bunch of individual billing accounts as a one-time bill. That makes our CRM messy as crap. We want to keep that to our high recurring revenue. So tying this, we already do the snapshot report for free. It takes us, we literally enter the data and submit it. It runs by itself for 24 hours. We get the data. So if we were doing this, really our only timeout would be like a 35 or 40-minute consultation with the snapshot report and this. That could get us to the discovery meeting, which is where we get our reoccurring long-term revenue.
Right. So what's your sales closing ratio now?
Well, if we're just running snapshot reports for people as a lead generator, it tanks our closing ratio. If we only run our snapshot report for our BNI referrals, we close 75 to 80% of those.
Gotcha.
But if we run this as a lead gen, then we're going to be down at a 10% closing ratio because we're going to be entering a lot of people doing the snapshots. Because once we run a snapshot, that instantly puts them into our database.
Right. And there might be a way to go ahead and charge for the snapshot, or create some type of product to do it. So I don't know. That's another conversation for another time. But
We'll
you understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing too, just as a reminder, because I don't think I've told my team this too. As salespeople, all we're doing is solving problems. We're just problem solving on behalf of the client. We're really not selling them anything. They're paying for a problem to be solved when we have the tools to solve that problem. So I want everybody to keep that in mind too, because it's a good reminder.
Right. Because what they're doing is they're investing into a solution that they will get a great ROI on, both time and money. And the time is often, depending on what kind of a business you're working with, for the business owner, the time likely may be far more valuable than the money. The other thing, you guys, it'd be interesting. It's like, should we go ahead and take segments of this? Because one of the biggest challenges businesses have is the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we talked about that last time, maybe. And so why do we have roller coasters? Because what most businesses, small to mid-sized businesses do, is they do a lot of marketing, generate leads, and then they work those leads. And then they close those leads, and then they service those leads. And then those leads run out or whatever, and they go back to marketing again. And they start the whole thing over. You can't do that. You got to keep your marketing going while you keep your pre-sales going, where you keep your sales going, and you keep your servicing going. You got to have all of these functioning. That's what the big companies do. They have all of these things functioning on a consistent basis. And so, would we do a short video on that? Do you have the roller coaster? Do you have the roller coaster effect in your business? And then teach them this in less than 3 minutes and use that as a lead gen out there and say, hey, we've got a free 30-minute strategy session, or here's a free personality assessment, or here's a free marketing assessment, or whatever. And so we have that. So we're looking for little things like hooks that'll draw in people. More time is a hook without question. More consistency in sales is a hook. More productivity and profitability, that's going to be a hook. So what are the hooks that are going on?
Yeah, and consistency in marketing too, right? Because so many people like to do marketing or think marketing's sexy. I just got off a call, two women business owners. One of the partners actually likes to do marketing, but she's also responsible for sales. So she's like, I have to go out on appointments. So when I have to go out on appointments, or I'm at a facility, or I'm at a place for auction, marketing gets subsided because she doesn't have time to do it because she's out making the call. And we internally, Bella and I run into that too. I mean, we have our team members doing our marketing, but Bella and I and Aaron and I, we're all out doing sales as well.
Right. So the thing is I can see where somebody would say, I like doing marketing, and I would ask them, how much do you like it? And they would say, I don't know, a lot or whatever. And you say, do you like eating? Well, yeah, I like eating. Do you do it every day? Yeah. Do you do marketing every day? Well, no. Well, then you don't like it as much as eating. So people like the thrill of it or whatever, but marketing, you're right. It's the consistency. If you're inconsistent in any one of these, then all of a sudden the roller coaster is going to happen. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen and to what degree it happens. Yeah, nice.
I love it. And then Mark, real quick too. I would love for us, one of the Thursdays that we record, literally just talk about what we just talked about in a podcast that we can share out to our customers about the roller coaster effect when they let one area slide. And Aaron and Bella, do you think that would be nice to share about how when they're not consistent in all these areas, it would be something that we can share with our prospects and our customers to think twice about, hey, let me look at my gaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. Amy, anything else you got?
Nope, thank you.
Yep, good work. Nora, what you got?
I don't know if this applies to the call or whatever. So
It does.
I was on the phone earlier today. You know how like I send booklets out? It's kind of like opens the door for conversations. And then I had a guy pick up, and I was just letting him know that it was coming. So then it's like we start this conversation, and I don't really want it to be like, obviously I'm always looking for sales, right? You're always in sales. But it's like I don't know, like, how far should I take the conversation before he gets the booklet and gets it? Like like I get this weird feeling and I don't really know what to do with it. So it's like I got his biggest challenge, and I'm thinking, okay, so I could call him back tomorrow and be like, hey, I was thinking about your biggest challenge. Like, is that something that, I don't know, it just feels weird because it's like it kind of messes up my whole system. How do I
Right.
overcome that?
Right. Does anybody know why it messes up Nora's overall system?
Because I'm analytic and I like
Yeah.
to do things in
Yeah.
order.
So Nora's a double analytic. So she likes to do things like in order, like it's this and then this and then this and then this and this. There's nothing wrong with that. But the analytic will often talk themselves out of sales or lose sales because of their system. So Nora's secondary on her geo test is going to be driver. And on her pain test, it's going to be expressive. And so if you shift gears into the driver or the expressive personality, and so, I don't know if you channel my energy or what you do, you just say, well, what would Mark do? He's closing that bad boy right now. Like, they don't need to get the booklet. Like he's gonna, well, you got a few minutes? And they're like, yeah, sure. I'm going to do the 30-minute right then and there. And I'm going to close them in 26 minutes on the business x-ray right then and there. I mean, it's going to happen. And so, but the driver and the expressive can do that. The amiable and the analytic, they struggle with doing it. So you lock your double analytic in the closet, bring out your expressive and your driver. You bring out these two personalities, you have a lot of fun, and you see if you can do it.
Yeah, and I get that, and there's so much inner conflict because then it's like, well, what if I would have waited? But I'm never gonna know unless I do it. So it's like you kind of just like, I don't know. So I have had a lot of that was just this afternoon in the last hour, and so that's been bothering me a lot because there's just a lot of
Right.
stuff going
And
on in my head.
right. And when you go ahead and try that, is it going to work?
Maybe, maybe not.
Right. Maybe, maybe not. Often it won't. And so what will the analytic think when it doesn't work?
Not gonna do it again.
Right. Well, that's not a very smart thing. And analytics are smart. So you got to realize, well, nothing works the first time typically, and it's not going to work all the time. This is where the analytic and amiable, they like the expressive they just like drama. They just like to create conflict. They just, because then it's fun. The driver doesn't mind it. They don't like it, but it's like, yeah, it's a part of life. It's how we grow. But the amiable and the analytic, the less assertive of the personalities, they will tend to back away. They won't try things. So if you push somebody too hard, and you don't have to worry about being sensitive if you're an amiable or analytic, you're already oversensitive. If you're an expressive or driver, you might want to be a little more sensitive. Like they're just like a bull in a china shop. But if you're an amiable, so if you push somebody and you sense you're pushing them too hard, all you do is back down. Oh, no problem. And they will respect you more than if you didn't push them. That's what the amiable thinks. Well, they're going to respect me less if I push them. No, they won't. They will respect you more if you push them and you back down. They will respect you actually more than if you never pushed them. So nice. No, that's absolutely perfect for today. Bella, anything you got?
Nope, I think Amy asked everything and covered everything.
All right. How's my spreadsheet gal?
I'm kind of on the same page with Nora about that. I feel that same way. So that was actually really helpful.
Well, good. Yeah. Yeah. So the analytic, what we want to do is analytics, and I'm deeply analytic. So I'm actually in the geo test, I'm actually analytic, and then driver secondary. And then in the pain, I'm driver and then analytic. But technically, based on the test, I'm equal analytic as I am driver. What I've just learned in sales is the driver, I'm going to be a lot more successful when I use the driver. The driver is going to see a lot more. The analytic will help me a lot, especially in the servicing. But in the sales, the driver and the expressive, they go ahead, and if you can bump this energy up, that will complement your analytic and amiable. You guys are awesome. Anything else that anyone has?
Did you see Marlon's on?
Marlon, how are you doing, sir? Marlon, are you there? It's good to have you on. So on this, on the quantum thinking for sales boot camp, sales is really everything. It's not just sales. It's not in the 530 grid. It's not just area 3. Everything you're doing in marketing is sales. Everything you're doing in pre-sales is sales. Everything you're doing in servicing is selling sales. Everything in client for life is sales. The whole thing is sales. And so when we learn that and we learn everything's interconnected, that's really, really helpful to us. If you have any questions on any of this, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300, outside the US 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye. We'll see everybody.
Thanks, Mark.